All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome to episode 5 of Rival Banter. I'm your host, Luke Croft. Joining me, as always, the esteemed bookish pappy, Seth Martin. Seth, how you doing, my
That
friend?
that's what they call me. Doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You're esteemed and diamond clad yet again.
Back. It was a long, hard climb. Miley Cyrus, baby, but we made it
Uh,
just now.
Now, like today, like
Yeah, like
moments
30
ago.
minutes ago. Yeah,
Hmm. So we're
not
saying,
quite moments, but not hours.
uh, I need to bite the bullet and get back in and play more than one or two ranked games at a time, which is all I can really muster right now.
See, I think that's my secret. I don't know that I would call it success because I'm still not as high as I was, but I've just been playing like other stuff, and then I'll get on and play a few games a night, enough to not get tilted. Either way. Well, actually, that's not true, but enough to get less tilted than I would if I just kept shooting myself in the foot. So
Yeah,
whatever. Cool.
yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know you're trying to finish up some other game. I don't know, Avowed,
Well,
but
I'm not gonna finish that. No, that's like Skyrim. It's one of those long games, but I just want to kind of get a chunk of it done so that I can kind of step back from it for a little bit and then jump back into it. I don't feel like I can play Assassin's Creed when kids are up because it's a little too assassin. So maybe Avowed, I can just explore and see some cool stuff, and that's something a little more. Even though it's still rated M, whatever.
yeah, there's a little more like options of stuff to do in a game like Avowed though, versus
Yeah,
in Assassin's Creed, you're kind of always at the mercy of having to go up and slit somebody's throat. So,
yeah, you gotta slit throats, you gotta crack skulls, you gotta kick ass and chew bubble gum.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm looking forward to duo queuing with you some more when you're, back on the grind. So let me know when you're back in. But before we jump into rivals, let me tell you about something that happened to me last night, Seth. This is totally unrelated in rivals. So,
Mm.
I live in Los Angeles. A lot of crazy people in Los Angeles. It's a city of millions of people. I'm out last night like 9 o'clock walking my dog. First of all, weed's legal here. I'm high out of my mind walking my dog out there.
Out of my mind. I'm seeing ghosts and shit.
And this man walks up behind me. He's like dragging something behind him, and he got a golf club in his other hand. And
Oh
he
yeah.
goes, that dog sure does have your back." And I said, "What?" He said, "The dog, it's got your back. It kept looking behind you and looking at me, thinking I was up to something." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Okay.
Are you?
And he just moseyed up, dude. The more I looked at him, the more he appeared that he might have been up to something. Because who's carrying a golf club around at 9 o'clock at night?
Have you checked to see if you still have your wallet?
I did not have my wallet to begin with,
Mm.
so
Mm.
and it
Mm.
is right here, so we're good to go. But
Good to go.
but yeah, I don't know, man. Los Angeles is wild. I'm gonna miss it. After the summer when I move back east and everybody's is sane back in North Carolina. So
Totally sane. Yeah, totally. Nothing to worry about at all.
yeah.
Especially in the mountains.
I know. Yeah. So, um, all right. Well, for the uninitiated, this is Rival Banter weekly show. Sorry, we had some technical issues last week. We recorded an episode. It was a brilliant episode. We probably solved all of the problems with the game and maybe even like world hunger, saved our democracy, all that. But the world will never know because the live stream dropped like 40 times while we were streaming, and Streamlabs doesn't decides it's not going to alert you in any kind of major way when it does that. Instead, it's just going to give you a little tiny notification down in the bottom left hand corner. So that episode will exist as a lost episode. I believe we had an early P3P episode that was lost in a similar fashion. So, par for the course when it comes to my technical skills. We're not live streaming this week. We're just recording this just to make sure that my not laptop, my computer can handle it. We'll hopefully be back to live streaming next week. But we do this every Tuesday. Then it's on podcast services everywhere. on Wednesdays. And I'm actually this week, Seth, going to be setting up uh, Rival Banter social media channels for us to get it off of my personal stuff. So I'll set up
My
an
God.
Instagram feed for us and a TikTok channel for us and all that sort of stuff. I think I'll keep the Twitch stuff as is for right now, but yeah, look out for us on Instagram and TikTok later this week. But yeah, wherever you're listening to us, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you leave us a subscribe or leave us a review, and leave us a comment as well. We talk about all things Marvel Rivals on this show. So, Seth, before we jump into the news, how was your week in Rivals?
Weekend Rivals, it started low. I think we've reached our lowest in a while. We set lofty goals. Actually, we didn't set lofty goals last week. I think our goals were to be like mid diamond or something like that.
Mhm.
But I'm almost there. We went pretty low, back to like plat two. I think I even reached plat three. Did I reach plat three at one point?
I'm not sure. You got close. I don't know if you quite got there.
I got real
Almost
close.
there.
I think I did, but I got right back. So now we're back up. We're just barely diamond three. We were like diamond three and 5 points past the negative zone. So, I feel pretty good. I feel like that. I don't know if it's just dumb luck or whatever, but we were talking before the podcast. I've just been playing two, three, four matches a day, and that's it. Play until you lose, pretty much, or you lose like two in a row. And I think I played at school Monday, yesterday, I guess, and I probably played like 7 matches and won like 5 of them, so that felt good. So we're just gonna kind of hope that luck keeps rolling, and if not, then I think I'm just gonna keep playing a little quick play, work on some Lord goals and stuff like that. But
Have you gotten everything from the event?
not yet, no. Just because, like, I don't know about you, it takes me days to unlock like new challenges, because I'm so up to date on all of them where I've played the game so
Mhm.
much. So I think I've got like 3 spaces left on the Galacta event to unlock. I've totally finished the battle pass though. I just got the last card on that today. So yeah, I'm pretty, definitely not running out of things to do by any means, but definitely want to work on getting into Centurion and onto Lord on a few characters so I can get there.
Who's up next for you on the Lord list?
So it's kind of a toss up. I'm pretty neck and neck in not Centurion, but what is it? Not Captain. I'm pretty like close to Centurion on Mantis, the Thing, and Thor. So really, it's just a toss up. I've also been playing a lot of Mag, but I'm still not out of Agent, I don't think, with him yet. So I guess you wouldn't really call it a lot. But slowly working on it. He's been a lot of fun. So I mean, I don't care. I'm just trying to kind of play roles and not so much characters, but kind of spreading out between Vanguard and support a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's kind of been my approach too. Is like I don't want to get locked into just like one tricking so
Hmm.
much as I want to be like I'm not a DPS guy. I'm never going to be a DPS guy. Instead, I'm just like I want to get good with like a lot of tanks and basically every healer I want to be. I want to be. So, um, so yeah, yeah. I'm back down to like bottom of plateau right now. I have gone on some devastating loss streaks
Devastating.
um, and yeah, I just need to. I've kind of honestly just been playing a lot of quick play, and because of that, I think I am done with all of the like actual items in the event that's going on right now. Because I've been
Hmm.
playing so much quick play, but
You mean in the Galacta event or in the night? Okay, yeah.
yeah, yeah, I think I'm done with the battle pass too, actually too. Um,
Oh,
now that I think about it, so because once you're done, it the only thing that's left is that page with just the credits, right?
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much. Yeah.
yeah. So that's all I've got left.
I think I can go back and somehow I never realized there was one last like card to get,
Yeah.
or page, whatever you call them, on the other battle pass. So I still need to go back and get that last one. And then after that, I'm just saving credits and banking them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, my approach with quick play has just been I'm just gonna be the last person to pick, and I'm just gonna fill and see, you know, what I need to play. So I've been playing a lot of Mag. I've been playing some Penny Parker. I need to start playing some more Strange, and I want to start playing some Venom because he just looks fun. But I also kind of suck with characters like that, like high mobility characters. But yeah, I've also been playing a lot more Mantis in quick play. I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable with like how I'm playing with her to the point where I feel like I could break her out in some comp if need be. So
Yeah, you get her the right composition. I mean, she's a double threat. She's a lot of fun. She's mobile. We've talked about her before, but I mean, she's all that. Maybe not the same output as some of your stronger healers, but when you kind of balance that out with the damage potential and the boosting potential, she's something.
well, I think that's kind of the frustrating part of playing Mantis is not so much like what I'm able to do with her, but like the rest of the team's understanding of what she's supposed to be doing, right? Like I feel like a lot of times people will get frustrated if I'm like standing behind them and they're like low and I'm like not healing them. And it's like, well, first of all, I can only heal on a cooldown. And second of all, like I have to balance like if I'm inspiring people, if I'm healing them, that sort of stuff. Like I don't know, and this kind of goes back to some of the stuff we were talking about last week about like there being a difference in just the understanding of what it is to be like play a hero shooter, and part of the hero shooter genre is like the idea of a main healer and like an off healer. And Mantis is definitely like an off healer, right? Like she has a lot more utility inside of her kit beyond just like being a heal bot. She's not going to be the character that like you can put up good healing numbers with her, and I have put up good healing numbers with her, but you're going to be a lot more effective with her if you're like keeping characters damage boosted and like making sure you're aware of when your DPS has their ults and like damage boosting them and sleeping people that you know jump your backline and stuff like that. You know.
Sure, I'll tell you my strategy for her is just hold the trigger all the time. Hold that, hold down her main fire so that you're, if you're hopefully going to hit somebody somewhere, and then you're going to build up those soul orbs, and you can kind of keep burning those so that you can, do that triple threat. You got to, do damage yourself. You've got to heal. You've got to buff, and you're doing kind of if you're doing it right. I feel like you got to be multitasking those three different ways. So just hold that trigger, and hope your fingers don't give out.
Yeah, yeah. I tend to do that a lot with her. I also just like to keep myself damage boosted almost all the time with her. I don't know if that's how you're supposed to play her, but um,
See, I kind of save it for situations. I definitely use it when I'm ulting, because like why not, right? But it just definitely just depends.
but yeah, she does tend to feel a lot better in like three strategist comps and stuff like that. Or if you have a main healer who's just really good at keeping the tanks up. If you're playing with like an Invis or a Luna Snow or somebody like that who's just really good at kind of heal botting like that. But yeah, no, this week for me, I think I want to just get back into like competitive and get back into grinding and get back up there in a diamond with you. But I want to start folding in these characters and learning more. Like my mag, I feel like has gotten really good lately too. Like I feel like I really understand how to use his bubbles and you know how to actually get damage with his like secondary fire thing that does the knockback and stuff like that. So I I feel like I can finally play him in some comp matches too. Um, and he's a good like solo tank too. If I get into a game and there's like nobody willing to tank, um, I can break him out.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Seth. Well, let's jump into it. At the end of last week, we had a small patch come out that I think we want to touch on for just a little bit. Three characters got some adjustments. We saw some balance changes to Human Torch, Iron Man, and Cloak and Dagger. So let's just go through each of these individually and talk about how we feel about them. So for the Human Torch, it says that he got an increase to his fire cluster projectile speed from 120 meters per second to 150 meters per second, and projectile count from 12 to 14, and then increase the energy cost of Supernova from 3,400 to 4,000. Increase activation wave damage from 70 to 80, and flame tornado damage from 100 per second to 120 per second. So, um, just a little bit of an uptick on his primary attack damage, and he got a little bit of a bump for his ultimate cost, but did get some love when it comes to the damage output for those as well. Human Torch has been absolute fucking garbage since he came out. So, have you played him since the patch?
No, honestly, I haven't played him one time, just because I just kind of know he's not my play style. You know, kind of like you, I don't feel like I do well with those dive characters very well. Anti-dive, I'm all about, but I just struggle in that area in particular. Venom was fun to play with when I first picked up the game, but like strategically, I just don't know that I'm there right now. I don't know. I guess Thing would be kind of a dive character in a way, but like not. You can't really get out. Depends on how you play him. But just in general, super mobile, I'm out. But I definitely have noticed that he is showing up a lot more in comp matches or just in matches in general. I've seen a lot more of him in the little bit that I've been playing, and I've actually noticed him a lot more on both sides of the team. Right? I think I've mentioned before that usually when there's one out there, it takes me 10 minutes to figure it out because I'm just kind of walking and I'm getting a little damage, but it's automatically getting healed. It's nothing that's really, you know, problematic for me more often than not. But now I'm definitely noticing him a lot more. And I actually had forgotten about his storm tornado, his combo ult, until I saw it on my team. Somebody whipped it out the other day, and I was dazzled by it all over again. So I think it's cool that he's coming back around, and that they definitely, made him a lot more viable competitively.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I still don't know if it's enough for him yet. Um, but I also understand that, like, in the grand scheme of the flyer meta that we kind of had at the beginning of 1.5, with like Iron Man and Storm already, and like Star Lord already kind of being strong, that you don't really want to kind of power creep that category of characters by making Human Torch also really difficult to handle. And so I get wanting to be kind of cautious with how much you're willing to kind of tweak the numbers, because I mean the projectile speed stuff I think is good. And I think his main combo, right, is like you throw a secondary fire down, you get a couple primary fire shots in, and then you dive into the backline, and you can kind of do that combo and eliminate like a backline healer or something, like a 250 character. And so projectile speed like enables him to do that a little bit better. But yeah, I don't think the Human Torch is just one of those characters that you're gonna see like outputting crazy damage numbers or anything like that. I agree with like what you're saying, that a lot of the damage that he does is kind of almost benefits the other team more because it's just really quickly healed up. It becomes ult charge for the opposing team's healers really quickly. Um, but yeah, I haven't seen him a whole lot. I haven't played as much comp as you. And I still just think there's a lot better DPS characters and out there, and characters that do a lot more consistent damage. And the other thing with the Human Torch is just like, of the flying characters, he's kind of got the least amount of mobility in turn, like outside of, I mean, Storm, I guess. Yeah, I guess Storm also lacks a lot of mobility when it comes to just her general movement as well, but she has a lot more consistent damage output. So I guess like the trade off is better for Storm. Whereas like Human Torch just kind of feels like a sitting duck in the sky a lot of the times, you know. He's got that little like you press circle or whatever, and like you get a little bit of like a speed boost. But outside of that, he doesn't have like the Star Lord burst or like the Iron Man jetpacks or anything like that to kind of get out of jail free card flying around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've seen more of him. I definitely have not seen a ton of him. So definitely there are better options. That storm ult though is still something. It's a thing of beauty
Yeah,
when it's on. When it's working for you.
yeah, yeah, and it kills through basically everything.
Mhm.
Iron Man also got some adjustments. So it decreases repulsor blast stage 1 and 2 direct hit damage from 55 to 40, increases spell field damage from 35 to 50, decreases stage 3 direct hit damage from 65 to 50, and increases spell field damage from 40 to 60. And then decreases repulsor blast armor overdrive direct hit damage decrease from 55 to 50, and increased spell field damage from 55 to 65. Which I don't know, man. Like I don't I don't really understand what they're trying to achieve with Iron Man, like what they're seeing in the numbers and why they think Iron Man needs all these different adjustments and stuff like this. Like this makes Iron Man a lot more forgiving, right? His splash damage is getting a lot more uh his splash damage is getting more love while his direct hit damage is going down. So I think part of this is just like Iron Man is probably a really attractive character for people who are just first picking up the game, and so you kind of want to give people that power fantasy when they're coming in and make them feel like they're really making a difference while they learn some of the other characters that are in the game. But I don't know, man. This seems like a strange change to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm not a huge Iron Man player myself either. Again, he kind of falls into that mobility category that I struggle with a little bit. But I mean, he is fun. I just don't know about these. I'll have to, I guess, see a little bit more of him in action than I have since the patch launched.
And then finally, Cloak and Dagger getting some improvements to their healing ability.
We're back, baby.
Increasing
Sorry.
the healing effect of the Light Force Dagger on hit for allies from 10 to 16, and then with a slight reduction of the spell field healing amount from 18 to 16. I've been playing a lot more Cloak and Dagger in quick play, and this change feels really, really good. Especially when you're healing up your tanks. Like, it feels like you're really keeping them up. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah,
on,
I single-handedly, we had some crappy supports earlier tonight. In the first round, did not go well. The second round, we switched roles, and I picked that cloak and dagger back up, and we slaughtered their asses. They should have. I hope that they felt bad for what they did. It was, but just to you know, she feels like home, right? And she did get those nerfs to her ult at least, in the 1.5 patch. I think this kind of makes up for that a little bit, even though her ult still has that reduced time. This definitely helps, and I think it helps even more, honestly, because it's constantly. It's not just during ult time. It's just during game time. So you're just getting the numbers higher and more quickly.
yeah, yeah. And you got to watch a little bit of the tournament this weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about the tournament later on. But obviously, there's a lot of there's a lot of strategist bans that happen, and a lot of like three strategist ban matches that happen where you see like Loki, Invis, and like Luna getting banned out. But I got to see a lot more Cloak this weekend than I saw Cloak in any of like the EMEA or Asia weekends for their invitationals. Um, so yeah, and I think Cloak kind of is in that like interesting in between where she can be kind of your main healer, but has enough utility where you can have them next to a Luna Snow, next to an Invisible Woman, and have them serve as more of that off healer with the blind and being able to kind of go into the Dark Force dimension and deal some damage and stuff like that too. So
Yeah, yeah.
a
I
lot
had a
of
kid.
versatility.
Yeah, I had a kid this week tell me he was watching me play some Cloak and Dagger, and he was like, "I want to be able to do that," because he saw me. I talked before about how playing them is kind of like a dance. Like you've got two sets of cooldowns that you've got to kind of balance and keep in mind. And so when I play, I'm trying to, now that I've played a lot of her, I'm pretty good. I like to think at kind of balancing that out. But so I'm constantly switching back and forth, and using that blind, and then using maybe the invis, and then switch it back over using your healing bubble, using your healing wall, and then just kind of balancing those cooldowns to where you've always got something that you can use
Mhm.
for whatever goal you're trying to do, whatever role you're trying to play.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we're never going back to the 1.0 Cloak and Dagger of layering the procs of her ult like you used to be able to do. Maybe they'll make some changes to the time, because I still think the fact that like a cloak ult lasts for 8 seconds while a Luna ult lasts for 14 seconds is absolutely bonkers. But I like seeing these kinds of changes where it's like, okay, let's play with the math on like the base kit, and do some changes to the actual like healing output that you're doing consistently over time, to change the viability. So I'm probably going to be picking up a lot more cloak in when I'm solo queuing too, just because it's super consistent healing output.
She's who I go to when I know like I have to try to win this match. Like she's how I try to bring it back, And like tonight, it worked. Does it always work? No, but especially when the other team doesn't know how to get in that back line, you know, it's she's something.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. Well, that's all. Really, all the news that we've got for this week. But I want to hop in because we are what now, like 2.5, 3 weeks into season 1.5. So we're about at the halfway point of this half of the season. So I think we've got a good feel for where kind of the meta stands, what characters are good, what characters aren't good. And I think now would be a good time for us to kind of step back, take stock, and talk about, as we start to get ready for season two, who are the characters that we think need some love? Who are some characters who we think might need some attention in the opposite direction? you know, might need a little bit of a nerf. And yeah, let's just talk about kind of where we think. Let's kind of theory craft where we think the meta is going to go as we gear up for preparations to season two, and we'll let's save predictions for like characters and stuff like that till we get a little closer to the season. But yeah, let's start with like let's just go kind of roll by roll, and let's start with our vanguards. Who are some of the vanguards that you think are going to see maybe the biggest changes as we get to the new season in a few weeks?
I feel like Hulk has really taken a nosedive. I mean, we've talked before in previous episodes about how shocked we were that his pick rate was so low. And, I don't know how much it's updated, but I know that I do not see many Hulks. If when you've got a Vanguard or two on your team, it's usually Groot. It's usually one of your shield tanks, and then maybe more of an off tank like a Venom or whatever. But the one that I see the least is definitely Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he's got his strengths. I think that he just doesn't have as many, redeeming qualities right now as some of the others. I would like to see his maybe just like damage output boosted just a little bit. Maybe those shield duration times, and maybe that would make him a little bit more attractive, a little more sexy to play. But I don't know. I mean, I always enjoyed playing Hulk, and I haven't really tried him since some of these changes. But I'm sure. I mean, there's got to be a reason why he's not as popular as he was when the game first launched.
Yeah, Hulk's a weird one because it feels like everything that Hulk does well, there's just other characters that do it
They
better.
do it better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like if
I
I
mean, yeah, with the shield, right? With his bubble, he can use it for himself. He can use it for somebody else. Hulk's got the same thing, but not the overshield, right?
Mhm.
And and not the competitive team up. I guess he's got his gamma with Iron Man, but still, it just doesn't seem, I guess, like it's worth it compared to some other team ups like Mag and Scarlet or something like that.
Yeah, and it's so dependent on like positioning. Whereas with like Mag, I have a lot more control, right? Like I'm not so dependent on like somebody being within my area of effect when I launch it. I can with Mag, I have a lot more control of like just walking up into range of somebody and kind of giving them the bubble. But it's like if I want to go back and harass the back line, I can use Venom, and then when I get low, I have a get out of jail free card by like pressing that overshield button, right? I mean, I feel like
Mhm.
Cap is even a better option at this point right now to like go into the back line and really harass.
Oh, definitely, he's a menace.
And so yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to think really what the change would need to be for Hulk though, because maybe it is just a matter of like changing the damage output on his punches or whatever, or even just you know what I don't really know how I feel about. I thought it was a cool design at first. Was like his stun, how like he's the only person who can interrupt his stun, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes it's like really frustrating, right? It's like the only mechanic that works like that in the game, where it's like Hulk stun somebody in the back line and then I'm trying to shoot that same person, but now like I can't do anything to him. Like I wish I was able to like chain that CC, you know, like oh they're stunned, I'm playing Luna, now I can snowball that person or whatever. I don't really understand the design choice that like why it exists like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But it will be nice, and I think if they want to keep him competitive in the game, he'll definitely see some changes. Maybe as season two comes into play, maybe pair it with a Red Hulk skin or something like that to get people put the asses in the seats for him. But I don't know.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So I think Hulk is a good call. Um. Dude, I think Penny is always going to be one of those characters that's like weirdly going to be a hard character to balance, right? Because she does so much passive damage that she's going to always kind of be beginner friendly in that it's really easy to die to Penny in a lot of really stupid ways, right? Like how many times in a game against a Penny in like a plat lobby do you just see people walk into a web and just take 75 mines to the face and then they're like, where's my heals? I'm like, brother, I can't heal you through 1200
There's no healing
damage.
for that. There's no healing for that. Yeah.
um but it reaches a point where it's like everything that she does outside of maybe like the web that she has is just so easily avoidable, you know. And I don't know how you balance her kit to the point where she becomes viable kind of across all ranks, but I would really like to see them try to make some adjustments to her kit that makes her more viable, cuz I really enjoy playing Penny. And when she's in spots that are really advantageous for her, she's really challenging to deal with. But then when you're playing, like point B on Idrisil or whatever, like on defense or whatever, and there's like not really a good place for your generator, like she's almost impossible to play. She's so situational. And I just don't know how you take a kit like hers and make it viable in every situation on every map like a lot of the other characters are. I'm trying to think of like Overwatch and if there's a character even like Penny in Overwatch that's so kind of specific.
See, I don't know now, or I haven't watched or played any Overwatch in quite some time. I don't know. Maybe I mean Zarya. No, not Zarya. Oh, what was her name? Symmetra. To a degree, maybe. I mean, she kind of has those turrets that she would set up, the mini turrets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, like what to look for, how to avoid them, right? But they're still not as widespread and like just I think powerful as pennies. I guess if that makes sense. If you let that pennies generator just keep pumping out those mines. It's something to reckon with, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger.
And but she's also just so like easily countered by an entire category of characters. Like any
Yeah,
flyer in the game, right, is able to counter Penny. Like get a Storm, get a Iron Man, get a Johnny, like get them out there and they can just fly over top of the nest. They're never going to be impacted by it, you know. Um, so you kind of have to build your entire team around a Penny if you're going to be successful with a Penny. Um, and so I don't know how you balance and how you adjust there. But yeah, I definitely would want to. I definitely want to see what changes they make with her kit um, going into season two. Are there any tanks that you want to see get nerfs going into the following season?
I don't think so. I think your tanks need to be as appealing as possible because nobody ever wants to play them. So I think you've got to make them sexy. You got to make them appealing. And that's, I mean, if you reduce their damage or you reduce kind of what they can do, then you're just going to end up with 5 DPS teams or 4 DPS teams that just don't do what they need to do. So you got to make them attractive for the people that only seem to care about kill counts or KD ratios, whatever it is.
The only small change I think I want to see to a tank made is I do want to see a small nerf to the overshield for Venom because he gets like I mean there are times where he can get like I think like 1200 health overshield
Yeah, yeah, for
if his
sure.
health is low enough. So, and I think that's a little too forgiving of a button.
Yeah, I could agree with that. Maybe take it down to like a solid K or something.
Yeah,
But I mean, even then, that overshield's pretty. You can burn through it pretty quickly. But if somebody's good enough and quick enough, then they can. They're a force to be reckoned with, especially if they've got heals. So I get that for sure.
yeah. All right. Well, let's move to the duelists. What duelists do you think are going to need some love in the coming patch?
I feel like I don't know what it would be, but because Black Widow, she's our our D list character, right? At least one of them that we mentioned in our tier a couple weeks ago. She's got more ammo now, which is great, but I mean, you just don't see her. And I think it's because like all she can do is just she's just got that snipe. You get her in a one-on-one fight, she's toast. You can switch out and take out those little nunchucks, those batons, but what are you gonna do? So I don't know. I think she needs some love. I still don't know. Like she just doesn't seem that fun to me. I don't know if it's just because of where I'm just not typically a sniper or like a hit scan player, but I don't know. She's just not. It doesn't seem like she's really doing it for anybody, as opposed to like a Hawkeye, who even then, you don't see a ton of, but he's at least I think a little bit more of a solid pick than a Widow.
Yeah, I think Widow is going to eventually need a like whole rework, especially if they just want to stick with this whole like no one hit KO philosophy, um, and go from like a Widowmaker to like a Sombra style design, maybe where she's more like stealth, get in, get out, like assassin style, like disruptor style character, maybe. Because you're right, dude. Like her whole kit seems just a little phoned in. You know, like she sprints, she has this like long leap, she's got this kick. You know, her plasma thing, like I don't know, it's got some space denial. I did see like if she gets damage boosted with it or something like that, and uh, apparently if she activates like if she's got the team up with Hawkeye or something like that, it damages sorry, let me step back and explain this. So, her team up with Hawkeye is that she gets the same she can activate that ultimate ability like he has um for herself, right? Where she sees like the duplicates of the characters. But apparently, her ult works where each instance of those duplicates takes its own individual pieces of damage. So if she activates that and is damage boosted and ults, you can do like some insane damage with her ultimate ability because of that. So like that's maybe the only one cool thing about her whole kit, but it's such a specific use case where it's like you need a Mantis and you need a Hawkeye on your team in order to do it. But everything else about her kit just seems phoned in. The nunchucks, like, I don't know, it doesn't seem like there's really ever a realistic situation where you're going to switch to them, right? Um, yeah, I don't know. She seems like somebody who's just going to eventually need a complete, like, scrap it and let's just redo her entire kit and make it something else because I don't know what changes you even make at this point and being like we're just gonna make her clip go from 8 bullets to 14 bullets or whatever the change was like if that's the starting point of ideas I don't know where you're going from there, you know.
But we can only go up, I think, from there. I think Iron Fist. I mean, he's still pretty competitive as a tank shredder, I think, but since he was nerfed a little bit, if I remember right, back in the mid-season patch, I've seen a lot less of him. He's still, if somebody knows what they're doing, he can still do a lot, but I think he may need a little bit of touching up to make him just a little bit more attractive too as a pick.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. um Honestly, dude, there's not many other characters in the DPS lineup that I think are in need of a buff though. I like
Honestly, we talked about it before when the patch first launched, the mid-season patch 1.5. I mean, it made the game feel a lot more balanced just in general, and it already felt pretty good. So I'm pretty satisfied with the DPS overall. I'm pretty satisfied with most of the heals overall. Am I frustrated sometimes when I see rockets and sharks? Sometimes, but I've also seen them still do some pretty incredible things. But it just kind of depends on the situation, depends on the player, just like everything else.
yeah, it's impossible to like fully balance those kinds of characters around because they are situationally good, and I think rockets are good if players are utilizing their entire kit, right? Like a rocket is good if they're healing and shooting and all of the things, but I feel like every other rocket I play with is just never shoots the gun. Like they're just shooting out healing orbs, right? And Jeff works in a lot of like three strategist comps, and he if you have a Jeff who can land his secondary fire, like he can output quite a bit of damage too. He can like three tap some 250 characters, stuff like that. I wish that there was I always thought this with Overwatch too, when there was like when goats was a thing, where it was like I wish some of the math would maybe tweak itself depending on like the number of strategists that are on the field, right? Like, okay, if we have two strategists, this is what the healing output of like Jeff's primary fire would look like. If there's three strategists, this is what the math would look like. Like scales based off of how many are out there because Jeff isn't doesn't feel good running him in a two strategist composition. If you're running a 2-2-2 comp and Jeff is your second healer, it doesn't feel great because his healing output just isn't that high. Um, you'd much rather have an Invis or a Loki or somebody else, right?
Or even one of those off healers. I feel like your Adam Warlocks, your to a degree Rocket, depending on how you play them. Your Jeff, they're like off healers almost. Like
Mhm.
they seem like they're the most viable, all like and well rounded when they're not just doing one thing. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're still in kind of a third tier compared to your high outputs like Invis and now kind of Cloak and Dagger and Luna.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man. I the strategist role I think is going to be the one that we're always seeing like probably the biggest kind of swings in with each patch. Just I mean, we saw a lot of changes to the math with ult charge and stuff like that with the season 1.5. There's entirely too many ults that just save your entire team right now, so they're gonna have to figure something out about that. So yeah, I want to see them try some creative things to motivate different play styles because like we've said in episodes past, like I don't think roll queue is the right thing. And I think you want to have it to where it doesn't feel bad when your second healer is locking in a Jeff or a rocket or something like that. And so how do you got to ask yourself ask the question like, okay, why is it that these characters feel bad? Why would I rather have these other characters? How do we get these characters there? And understanding why that might break other kinds of comps and saying, okay, here's how we can fix it. And I think scaling it based off of the number of strategists on the field is the way to go, not limiting the number of players that are on. But I also get why NetEase is probably like, well, we don't want you to have to like relearn the feel of a character based off of the number of strategists that are on the map at any given time, especially when you can just change the number of strategists mid map, right? Like you can go from 3 to 2 to 1, you know. So, um, anyway, are there any strategists that you think need a nerf or even DPS? I don't think we talked about DPS that need a
Yeah, kind of the same thing. The same argument for me with the vanguards. Now could Luna's ult maybe stand to be just a second or two shorter? Probably.
Yeah, make that
But
bad boy
I
like
still
10
think you need
seconds.
something like that. Yeah, I mean it's redonkulous, but they I don't know. I mean, you got to keep them appealing too, because otherwise people aren't going to want to play them, and you're going to end up with six-person DPS comps. That just what are you doing at that point? So I don't know. I think you have to make those characters in other roles as attractive as possible, especially because there are less of them anyway,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the game is always going to struggle. I think with some of those original characters, your Jeffs, your Rockets, and stuff like that, that just have a little less complex kits because they're just going to lack the level of utility that a character like Invis has. Where like Invis can knock flyers out of the sky with her like psionic. Uh, I have fucking Lord Invis, and I have no clue what her abilities are called, but like
Yeah,
the
her bubbly thing.
the
That's
giant
all you.
orb she throws out can knock flyers out of the sky. She can push characters. She can pull characters. Like she's got all this utility in her kit, and then you look at Jeff, and it's like, what utility does Jeff have? Like he can speed burst you with his bubbles. That's about it. You know, he can nom 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 you with his ult, but nobody likes that. I don't like
Mhm.
getting eaten by an enemy ult. I don't like being eaten by a friendly Jeff ult. So um, yeah, I don't know. We'll do a full on like predictions episode when we get closer to to season 2. Talk about characters that we think will come. We'll put some like official predictions on the board as to changes that we think will be made and stuff like that too. So be on the lookout for that. But I did want to talk about one other topic with you because this has been something that's kind of been making the rounds on the Reddit. There's been some content pieces that have been made about it, and it's all about kind of ranked inflation, Seth. And we touched on this a little bit last week, but like I said, we lost the episode, so we'll touch on it again this week. But Seth, as somebody who's in Diamond, um, and you and I have we've kind of experienced this grind of ranked. There's this perception that's been going around that like there's a there's an artificial inflation of players in higher ranks that they might not necessarily belong in. And I'm not saying that you don't belong in Diamond or that I don't belong in
Hmm.
plat, or that you know those kids that you were saying don't belong in GM. But that there's
Yeah, they earn their way, whatever.
um, but it does seem that there are a lot more mechanics in the game to keep you from falling out of your rank than there are to keep you um than there are mechanics to get you back into a rank that you might need to actually be in. So you've got things like the Chrono Shield. You have things like gaining 30 rank points versus losing 20 ranked points and things like that. So I want to get your read on this, Seth, because I've seen varying opinions. I don't think there's a right answer necessarily to this question, but do you think that Marvel Rivals has a ranked inflation problem?
See, I don't know. Like, I don't have the hard data. I don't know. I know, like, the vibes that I get. I know that I never expected to be a diamond player. When I hear the word diamond, thinking back to like Apex Legend days and stuff like that, I would have never dreamed of reaching diamond in Overwatch or Apex or something like that. It just it seemed out of reach. For as long as I've been playing comp, and I didn't even play at all. Really, the first few weeks of season one or in season zero. So I mean, I feel like I climbed to Diamond two pretty quickly in just a couple of weeks, and for me that was impressive. And now, do I deserve to be there? I feel like I do. Do I feel like I could maybe be a little bit higher for sure? But I don't know how I feel about the idea that like I mean, it's easy to lose your rank, because it's been happening to me a lot. And the higher you climb, you earn less. I feel like you start to, and again, I can't really done the math. I'm an English teacher, but well, when I get to diamond or so, and I win, I feel like I'm getting a pittance, like chump change, as far as your rank score goes. But whenever I lose, it seems like that number, the higher you go, the loss numbers grow and the win numbers kind of shrink. So I don't know. It feels pretty fair to me, but I do definitely agree. Like, I don't understand how some people that I know are solo queuing to Celestial or something like that. Yeah, I've got a substitute teacher at school. It's Celestial, and don't know. He said he did it all solo queues, but I think he's stuck now. But
So let me share this screen. I don't think you can see this, Seth. Let me actually drop these in the show notes for you. I don't know if you're in the show notes
I am. I am.
right now. Because I think these charts are pretty interesting. So there's the Rivals rank tracker. And then this is from 5 months ago, but I think it's a good representation of how Overwatch's ranks are distributed. So let me share these again. So this is Rivals, right? Um, here's the graph distribution of this. So everybody who I think tries a game of competitive gets placed in bronze 3. So you've got 21% of your player base in there. So just ignore that. Distributed throughout the rest of here, basically from diamond down, 4%. Yeah. So from diamond 3 down, each tier has like 5% of players at each tier, right? So you've got 5% of your player base in gold. You got 5% or gold 3, 5% of your player base at plat 3, 5% of your player base at diamond 3, 5% of your player base at grandmaster 3, so on and so forth. 4% of your player base at gold 2, 4% at plat 2, 4% at diamond 2. So it's pretty like evenly distributed. Whereas if you were to look at like the competitive rank distribution of season 12 Overwatch, 36% of your player base is in gold. And then it kind of, cascades and, it's what's this, a bellwether um, graph, right? Where, it cascades down in opposite directions from there. So 27% in plat, 20% in silver, 9% in diamond, one 0.2% in Masters, 0.2% in Grandmasters, 0.1% in Champion. So um, I don't know, man. I think it's interesting how this distribution, because if Rivals were to look like this, right, you would expect Gold would have a much higher bar, and then it would kind of have that same sort of like
That same bell curve. Yeah.
that same bell curve, right? So, um, I don't know, man. What do you make of this now that you're kind of seeing the data?
Like it is surprising. I wonder because does Overwatch's rank system does it have tiers the same way
It
that
it does, and it's got like
okay.
5 tiers, I think, per rank.
So I kind of wonder because what if we do the math? I mean, bronze of course has the most at like 30%. And it's just wild to me that bronze is so low in Overwatch. So I mean, this is kind of like an anti-bell curve, and I don't know how that I'm not enough of a mathematician to know how that works because
Well,
it's just so leveled out.
so that is a good point you bring up, Seth. So one thing to keep in mind is this is season 1 of Marvel Rivals. So nobody was placed at the beginning of this season, right? So all of the climbing that has happened, so in season 12 of Overwatch, there was a ranked reset, but but it's not like the GMs were sent back to bronze, right? The GMs were sent back to like, you know, high plat, low diamond or whatever, like had to get back to GM or whatever. So you're not going to have that like huge spike of bronze players, right? So that is something worth pointing out. So I think we can kind of like ignore maybe the bronze section of that we're seeing there. But I do think if like we just were looking at the total number of players, I'm going to do some quick math here. I'm sorry, I cut your point off. If you want to finish what you were saying.
No, just like I said, it's wild how level the balance is. I mean, I don't know how that happens. Other than I just don't know. Like it's hard to. I don't even know if I can say whether I consider it a good or a bad thing. I like level playing fields, but it does seem like there are a lot of people in each category.
So according to my math, quick math here on this rival
Mhm.
on this chart here, there are currently 60.8 thousand players that have been analyzed that are in silver on this chart. And there are 63.3K players in diamond on this chart. So there are more players currently in diamond than there are in silver. And on the surface, that doesn't sound right. But then when you think about the fact that in silver, you're getting 35 40 points per win, you're losing 18 20 points per loss, and you're getting a chrono shield every 5 6 losses. It makes sense, right? Like the game is actively pushing players out of silver and gold ranks to get to plat. The fact that there's not a huge jump in plat players compared to gold players is what's more surprising to me than any
Yeah,
of the
I
other
mean that is a
things.
good point. It seems like it's been so long. I guess I've kind of forgotten about some of those assistants that you kind of have in those early ranks. Yeah, I mean that helps me process it a little bit more, I guess. And will that level out more as seasons progress? I don't know. Um, yeah. Hmm.
I do wonder if the Overwatch season 1 rank distribution, I wonder if this data still exists. It might not. Who knows? Because the other thing about these kinds of games is like the skill gap between the highest ranked players and the lowest ranked players as a game matures is going to greatly increase, right? Like your really good players are going to get way better than your worst players as time goes on. But that your average players 2 years after a game launches are going to be far better than your average players a week after the game launches, right? So like,
Sure.
so as the game evolves, so rank population in Overwatch 1, gold was 32%, plat was 25%, silver was 21%. So it kind of follows that same bell curve. Um,
I think I wonder too, and this is just wild speculation, wild speculation, but this is such a dopamine-driven game, and I mean, Overwatch was too to a degree. All gaming is, right? Like you're just kind of chasing that high. Whether it's getting wins, whether it's loot boxes or whatever. Where this game launches free to play, and it's there's so many like tasks and check boxes to work on getting checked. Whether it's gaining lore, whether it's climbing and ranked, whether it's the multiple events that intersect throughout seasons. I kind of almost wonder if this is another form of that. Like you want people to feel good about themselves. You want them to feel good and like they can accomplish what they maybe didn't think they could. And so that again kind of continues to put the asses in the seats and bring players in. So like I feel pretty cool about myself being in diamonds. Like I didn't think I could get there. But again, how much of that is me versus like you kind of mentioned being pushed in that direction by the developers, behind the masterminds, the puppeteers behind it all.
and that's a really good point too. The upfront investment of Overwatch when it first came out, I mean, it was a full release, right? You had to pay $60 to play Overwatch.
Mhm.
So, um, so yeah, that commitment was there, and I think we've learned a lot in the last decade for the free to play game loop, and yes, part of that is you know the bot lobbies in Fortnite, right? Where it's like those first few games, you want your players to get 15, 20 kills, like you want people to feel like they're really good at the game until they get really good at the game. And I do think that there is that kind of handoff in Marvel Rivals, right? Where you go from the quick play where you are kind of getting I mean, it is a proven fact. You get bot lobbies from time to time in quick play, and then you do you hand them over to comp where you are playing against a bunch of other humans, But I do think over time we're going to start to see things kind of even out. I do think as seasons progress, we're probably going to get rid of maybe some of these sort of like more forgiving mechanics as uh you know because I think the plat and diamond experiences are not the most fun experiences. you know when you're getting with it, like I've seen some people talking about online about how like I just deranked to gold because gold ends up just kind of being more fun than those
It's a little more
things.
exciting, you're definitely, I don't know, like I like the tension to a degree. I think that's kind of where I'm not grinding as much. I'm having more fun because my matches are a little bit more balanced, where I've kind of hit a little bit of a plateau for right now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, gold probably does make you feel a lot better because you probably are racking up wins a lot more, and not hitting as many of those loss streaks. And when you do, you've at least got that chrono shield, right, to at least give you a little bit more sanity.
Well, and also when you get into like the high plat and into the diamond area, you're starting to get with the players that like think they're really good and think that they're like just kind of stuck in elo hell.
Mhm.
And it's a little more toxic and stuff like that. Whereas like in gold, it's a little less of that sort of stuff too. So
Yeah, I was playing a game earlier, and somebody was like, "Calm the fuck down! What are y'all doing?" Because people were just charging at the point. And somebody's like, "We're going to the point," and it was on convoy. It's like, well, yeah, you're going to the point, but where's the rest of the fucking team? Like where, you're Scarlet Witch. You're not that fluffy. You need some support behind you. Don't just like you might stop that point for a second, but like it's a team game. Motherfucker. Play the game. So yeah, I mean I definitely get that shit. Like I'm sure that person had they were running like 30 and 10 on their KD ratio. Like they probably felt really good about themselves, but they just kept on dying, kept on dying. Like where's my heels? Well, there you go.
I want to start a new content series called wears my heals where I clip the moment right before a tank player tells me that they've gotten no heals. It shows me number one healing them, and number two them face tanking just six DPS players, just shooting them in the face. Because I was playing a game on Hell's Heaven today, and this Thor just did not understand the concept of grouping up, and I was trying my best to keep him alive just from a distance, like a safe distance, and I'm pouring heals into him, and I can't out heal six people shooting at him. And he goes, I haven't gotten healed one time this game in chat. And I said, no, you're just bad. I was healing. I was healing you. And because yeah, dude, like I threw my shield in front of him. I was, I'm healing him twice because I'm Invisible Woman. My shit bounces, so it's coming back through him two times. But yeah, maybe I'll look into starting my little here's your heals content series.
Could be cool.
All right, man. Well, let's move on and talk about this tournament. I know you said you got a chance to watch some of the games. I know you're just kind of getting into the swing of watching high level competitive rivals. You watched a little bit of like the Asia and EMEA stuff, but what were some of your takeaways from the games you got to watch for NA? Have you picked a team yet that you're rooting?
No, not really. I mean, I would love because that's the weird thing about esports is different teams don't always play the same games. So like if one game, I know like when I'm watching Call of Duty, I tend to root for Optic. They have other teams and other games, but I don't always root for Optic. Like more often than not, I'm a Space Station fan. When it comes to other games where they're in the same league. I don't really have anybody like that in here. So I'm almost tempted to be like a Thieves fan, just because. But I don't know. It helps me personally. I love in high level leagues like in COD League or the Overwatch League where you kind of like get to know the players a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we get that sometimes between matches with occasional players here and there, but I like having the spectacle. Like when you watch a COD, definitely when you watch like a major tournament and like you're in the arena and you can see the players interacting with each other, talking trash and all that stuff. Shit talking. That kind of stuff I like. I like kind of a little bit more of the social aspect of it too. And we don't really have that, I guess, where this game is so young right now. They're probably trying to take it slow and not dive in balls deep like they did with Overwatch League and some other, competitive games like that. So I don't know. I'm still working on that part. I hesitate to just become a Thieves fan because that kind of conflicts with lots of other stuff that I watch. As far as competitive esports goes,
Mm-hmm.
but I enjoyed watching the tournament. Takeaways, I love just seeing different comps and play styles come into play. Without this role queue, it's a lot of fun to see. I'm still a big fan, not necessarily of goats, but of like the three tank
Mm-hmm.
gameplay. When you have those three vanguards, if you've got the healing and if you've got at least one solid DPS there, you can do a lot of great stuff. And so I saw some of that. Sometimes it works better than others, but seeing the pros do that and kind of like confirms like when I do it with other teams, you've got a second where you're like three tanks, and then you're like three tanks. All right, because again, like it depends on the comp, depends on the player, but again, that's kind of the beauty of the game. You can do anything if you're playing your role, if you're doing your job.
Yeah. To your first point about like getting to know the players and content and stuff like that. I worked in esports for 2 years. I worked for the Golden Guardians doing league stuff and doing Smash stuff, and like that was a big thing for us, right? It was like storytelling with our players and getting them in front of the camera and you know uh, trying to make people fans of the players so that then they in turn they could become fans of the teams. And so when I'm watching these events, right, I'm looking for like who are the standout performers? Like who are the guys who are like just like popping off in the server that I'm really having a fun time watching? You know, and I'm thinking of guys like TTK for 100 Thieves, who was awesome. Not only is he one of the best tank players in North America, but he's also like a controller player, which is crazy that you've got a controller player at this level. You know, there's also like Team Envy has a bunch of like old school Overwatch guys like Space and Sleepy from some of those like OG Overwatch League teams. Um, you know, you've got Shroud X, which is like the old Mutants team, I think is who they are, that was signed up by Shroud, who's like a longtime content creator who's given these young guys just a chance. Like, and I think that storyline is really cool. You know, you've got I think it's Delena for let's see, who was Delena playing for? Um, yeah, again for 100 Thieves, who was just an incredible Hella player. Tara, who was another 100 Thieves player, who for some reason just kept getting Wolverine. Like they teams were not banning Wolverine and just letting Tara play it, and Tara kept popping off on Wolverine all weekend on that hero. And so yeah, like I'm always just looking for those players that are popping off. I do have a team that I've always been a fan of that's in this tournament in FlyQuest. So, you know, I have a team that I came in rooting for. They've got Cooper Tastic, who plays Luna Snow, that I really like watching. They have Light, who's a really good Star Lord player who's a lot of fun to watch too. So Spark Chief, who's a really good group player. So yeah, they were fun to watch, and they went 2-1 on the weekend too. So
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's there. I would like to see more of it, or
yeah,
kind of give it like feed me, like you can get it if you're good with names, if you're good with just kind of like processing what's happening. Not growing up as like a huge sports fan, I still
mm-hmm.
struggle with that with like live sports. Sometimes like, oh, what just happened? So I definitely get that, a few fold in esports, but having that, a camera on the player, or having some land like social interaction kind of helps
Mm-hmm.
me just so I can get invested a little bit more.
And dude, I gotta tell you, man, the viewership experience of the MRI is terrible. Like, I like the player interviews afterwards because it gives you a little bit of that, but like, there's a 5 minute break between every match.
You hear the
There's
same song, which is a banger,
yeah,
but you're gonna hear that song every single time. It's like when you I don't know. I think it's what was it? The MLB app. I don't know if it's changed since way back when, but like when a commercial would come on, you might get one commercial, but then you're just gonna get a screen that says MLB.TV, and there's no music, pretty much nothing.
commercial
It's just gonna
break in
fill
progress.
commercial break in progress. You're going to see that screen for minutes, and then eventually your program just kind of returns. Um, I don't know. It kind of reminds me of that, but I think they definitely do have some work to put in there. I'm sure that there are reasons. Like I'm sure they probably need a little bit more of a I don't know buzz to be able to get kind of the ad space that some other competitive esports has, but I don't know.
Well, the thing is they've got. I mean, they've got so many orgs here that are so good at content. FlyQuest is incredible at content. 100 Thieves is good at content. Sentinels is amazing at content. They've got Shroud X, who is owned by a content creator. You know, like they could be giving these 5 minute blocks of time to these teams to create content around their players, right? Around their organizations to like do what you're saying, promote their brands, their players, their teams, like to get people behind them. And I want to see more of that sort of stuff making its way. One of the things I think that made Overwatch League a little harder to uh for fans was that it was so kind of corporate and controlled by Overwatch League, and it didn't really give the teams an opportunity to like create their own identities. Whereas like with League, right? Like League does a really great job of giving teams their opportunity. So like every week with League, we had an opportunity to submit like a 90-second video that we produced for a time slot before our game aired or something like that. We didn't always take advantage of it because like video production is hard, but we had that opportunity each week. That's something we made in house. It had to be approved or whatever, but we could submit it and it would go. And I just think like put the ball back in the org's courts because they're spending the money on these teams, right? They want to get them out in front of people. They want people to be fans and buy their merch and stuff like that. Give them opportunities. So I want to see more of that sort of stuff. Um, but yeah, I love seeing one of the things I love about NA is they just run a bunch of crazy shit, dude. Like if you're watching NA after watching like EMEA in Asia, EMEA in Asia, they run a lot of mirror. They run a lot of the same comps over and over again. Um, NA, you get a lot of, we saw the three Vanguard stuff. We saw some three strategist stuff, we saw a lot of different unique compositions coming out. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this weekend. I think Shroud X, even though they are in the lower bracket coming into the weekend, I think they're going to make some noise because I think they kind of just got pooped on by the matchups that they had throughout the rest of the weekend. They had to face Sentinels on day 2, who's one of the best teams in the tournament, and then they had to take on FlyQuest, who's one of the best teams in the tournament, on day 3. So they end up in the lower bracket. They're going to get to take on Shikigami, who's probably the worst team in the tournament, in the lower bracket. So yeah, expect them to make some noise. Yeah, should be an exciting tournament this weekend though.
For sure.
All right, man. Well, we'll come back with our thoughts on the final bracket next week. But before we wrap up, what are your goals in Marvel Rivals this week?
So I'm back to diamonds. I'm right there now. I think I'm gonna make my goal. It might have been the same as the one last week. I want to reach diamond 1. I want to be within reach of that GM. We're running short on time. We've got like what 23 days left in the season or something like that. So I want to start getting closer, but I don't want to grind. I was starting to kind of make myself miserable a little bit, and I don't want to do that because this game is too much fun to let it make you miserable. So I just want to keep doing that. I want to maybe play a little bit more quick play and like just like intentionally jump into some quick play and just play around, have a little fun without um, the pressure of comp. But at the same time, I don't have time for that because I've got like we've talked about, I like to play other things too, and Rivals has taken up a large chunk of my time, which is great. But we got to make time for other stuff too, right?
Unfortunately.
For better or worse.
Yeah, I think mine's just to get back to Diamond. I've kind of been just playing a lot of quick play as of late, and yeah, I need to get back on the grind a little bit more. Maybe not to the point where I was playing, 20 ranked games a day or whatever I was doing, but yeah, a little bit more than what I'm doing now, which is where I'm just kind of logging on and playing a bunch of q games. So
Yeah, I feel like, just kind of intentionally doing a few. You're not going to get too burnout. You're not going to get too tilted. Because as soon as that thermometer starts rising, if you kind of have that goal in mind, like I'm just doing this a few times, as long as you can kind of keep it controlled, then I think that kind of makes the experience just a little bit more enjoyable overall. I tend to make myself miserable when I'm just like one more, baby. You get that gambler's mentality, that dangerous dopamine high, and it just feels so good, baby. But you gotta keep on going, man. And I don't know. I we can't keep going there.
yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the same reason I used to keep smoking cigarettes. One more, baby. Just one, just one more.
All
You want to
right.
quit? No, one more wouldn't hurt.
I mean, this game might make me start smoking cigarettes. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be cool. Could.
All right, man. Well, let's get out of here. This has been a good episode. Covered a lot of ground. We'll come back next week with our thoughts on the final weekend of the NA MRI, and yeah, some more covering news and whatever else may pop up. But Seth, thanks for your time again this week, buddy. Love you, and I'll see you in game.
Hell yeah, brother.
Hey, later.